Yahoo Fantasy Football is back, everybody. The Tucson Tackle Dummies League has reunited for season number 3. This is your Week 1 quick take, talking about all the action from around the league in the 8 battles that made up the Week 1 card. Let's go ahead and get started here right away off the top with the Meow Mix Game of the Week. The closest battle this week came down to the final pass on the final game of Week 1. Delicious Pancakes knocks off Is This the CFL 123.77 to 120.58. The matchup came down to that final play as Philip Rivers threw an incomplete pass to end the Chargers' hopes against the Chiefs late Monday night and keep Philip Rivers from scoring a touchdown. CFL needed Rivers to pick up that touchdown to possibly overtake Pancakes, or at least force an overtime and keep this contest going. The battle came down to less than 4 points, the closest battle of the week by far. That allowed Delicious Pancakes to make a huge Monday night rally in the doubleheader games, came back from a 20-point deficit to make up all the ground lost on Sunday. CFL had 4 offensive players meeting projections out of the 8 possible, with Pancakes only having 3 of the offensive players meeting the projections. CFL dominated the quarterback battle. Philip Rivers had 21 points in the rain in Kansas City. Joe Flacco managed just 8 points against one of the better defenses in the league, the New York Jets. CFL dominated the wide receiver fight, had 46.04 from 3 wide receivers. Big weeks from Wes Welker, and CFL's top scorer, which was Austin Collie, with both players scoring 20 points plus this week. The wide receivers Pancakes used this week, combined, all 3 of them managed just 18.95, including Derek Mason's disappointing 2.6 performance on Monday. The Maurice Jones-Drew versus Adrian Peterson battle that these two teams presented this week was a total flop. Maurice Jones-Drew and Adrian Peterson both failed to find the end zone this week and really didn't contribute in any way to the overall performance of either team. Pancakes rallied using Antonio Gates on Monday night, who picked up a touchdown. The highest scorer was on that team with a 14.85. And then the defensive side of the ball wound up being the difference here. Pancakes won the defensive side 54.5 to just 25 for CFL. Pancakes with all 6 defensive players beating projections. The CFL's lone player, Aaron Campman, the only one managing to meet projections on their side of the ball. The Jets' defense for Pancakes picked up 12 against the Ravens, which actually probably hurt Joe Flacco, but in the long run it wound up helping Delicious Pancakes. And Bernard Pollard had a big day against the Colts with a 10.5. CFL got a decent return from the Browns defense that should probably have been bigger considering they were playing the Tampa Bay offense. And then A.J. Hawk was a complete disappointment this week, picking up just a point. In other action, another close battle, Greek Thunderball gets off on a good note here, defeating the Pain Trains, a playoff team from last year, 94.11 to 86.77. Greek won despite just 3 players meeting projections this week, just 3 scoring in double digits. Pain Trains had 3 players in double digits, but just 2 players beat projections this week. That was Eli Manning and Otagwe. I'm not going to ever say that name right, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Greek had 2 inactive defensive players and another scoring 0. Still lost the defensive battle by only 6 points. Greek had Adrian Wilson on the defensive side to keep pace with 15 points for the Cardinals. And Pain Train's defense, the Denver defense, was a huge disappointment this week. Just 1 point playing against the Jacksonville Jaguars, which was the league's most sacked team last year. Pain Train's offensive woes continued. Mike Sims-Walker had a 0 this week, and Kevin Boss got injured. Managed a 1.35 before being taken out of the game. Greek's lackluster week from Aaron Rodgers, just 14.42 from an elite quarterback, still managed an elite score in Reggie Wayne with 17.65 at the wide receiver position in a losing effort for the Colts. Greek had a rare 2 tight end set this week. That was only employed by 1 team at all last season, but 2 teams are using it this year, and it was successful for Greek Thunder this week. 16 points from Jermichael Finley and Vernon Davis, as those 2 will likely be a dynamic scoring duo in many weeks this year. In other action, the team that was absolutely dead last season picks up a win in Week 1 as Sixburg knocks off Polax 117.62 to 106.34. Sixburg won despite losing Matt Stafford early in the Lions-Bears game and getting just 1.32 from him before he's down and is actually going to be out for multiple weeks. Polax didn't fare much better, though, with just 8.54 from Donovan McNabb on Sunday night. Berg dominated the wide receiver position this week. 38.4 to 9 was the tally there. Hakeem Nicks with a 26.5 and Jeremy Macklin with an 11.9 for Berg. Polax managed 1.55 out of Kansas City elite receiver Dwayne Bowe. Rookie Ryan Matthews for Polax was also a disappointment, managing just 5.95, including a fumble and getting benched late in that close game. Ahmad Bradshaw with a 15.8 and Pierre Thomas with a 15.35 definitely held down the fort, though. The other two running backs being started by Polax. Sixburg got 14.6 from Visante Shanko, despite the Vikings only scoring 9 points, so an unlikely source of power there, racking up points at the tight end position. Polax won the defensive battle to keep it close, though. Antrell Roll, Melvin Bullitt, and Sean Ellis all beat projections on Polax defense, and Sixburg got just 1 point from the San Diego defense in the rain, which was a very unlikely result. Luis Castillo and William Hayes were definite non-factors, as Sixburg's defense looks to be suspect already. In other action, Free Roethlisberger defeated Inglorious Bearjew 101-51 to 83-01. Free Roethlisberger won despite having just 3 players beat projections to Bearjew's 6 players topping projections this week. A quarterback battle was a total bust here, with a mediocre Dennis Dixon netting just 8.84 for F. Roethlisberger, while Kevin Cobb got KO'd by the Packers for the Eagles for Bearjew. Got just 1.06 on his way out the door, and who knows when he's going to be back. Bearjew snagged 38.55 from 3 wide receivers that all beat projections. Carolina's Steve Smith, high scorer Greg Jennings, and Devin Arishmadu all had really good weeks at the wide receiver slot for Bearjew. Roethlisberger, though, countered with 3 running backs, a mild 28.3 from 3 of them, including Michael Turner's lonely 5.15, lowly 5.15, but a 16.25 out of Jamal Charles this week definitely held down the fort at that position. And then you throw in the team high 23.1 from Miles Austin for the Cowboys to right the ship, and the offense for Free Roethlisberger. The offensive woes for Bearjew's running game, though. Carell Buckhalter had a negative 0.5 this week, and Ray Rice managed just 6.7. Very disappointing performance from who's supposed to be possibly the best running back in the league this season. Free Roethlisberger won defense on the shoulders of Curtis Lofton's 11.5, while Bearjew had zeros from both defensive backs, Darrelle Revis and Brian Williams, contributed nothing this week. In other action, Herbie TG gets off to a great start, knocking off the regular season king from last year's Shots, 128.32 to 93.03. Shots goes all of last season never scoring lower than 100 points, and then falls short of 100 points in Week 1 of 2010. Herbie had a big day offensively with 92.82 points on that side of the ball alone. Tom Brady had a huge day with 22.32, and Chris Johnson had a team-high 28 at the running back slot. Herbie also benefited from Tim Hightower taking over for Beanie Wells in 100% capacity this week. Hightower got all of the carries and had a pretty good showing. Shots fell short of projections with Randy Mosh, TJ Hushmanzada, who only had 2.95. Jonathan Stewart for the Panthers managed just 1.2 this week, and a 2 tight end set for Herbie this week was the opposite of Greek's result. This did not work for Shots, I should say. Did not work for Shots at all, managing just 4.6 out of Jason Witten and Owen Daniels, while Herbie used just 1 tight end and got nearly the same out of John Carlson. Shots' lone bright spot on the offensive side was Javed Best with a team-high 16.85. Herbie got 10 from Terrell Thomas at the defensive back position. He was projected to get none going into the game, so that was the story really on the defensive side. It's Herbie with a decisive victory over Shots. In other action, Diabetes knocked off My Dirty Boys 99.38 to 62.45. Diabetes used 2 20-plus point performances to topple a really bad lineup for Dirty Boys. Jay Cutler with a 22.08 and Rashard Mendenhall's overtime winning performance, picking up an additional 20 points, overcoming Sidney Rice being in the starting lineup and being inactive for Diabetes. Dirty Boys got 0.95 from Sean Green with the Jets and a 0 from the injured Michael Bush. Throw that in with 4 defensive players scoring 0, 3 of them being inactive, and the team combined for just 10 points on the defensive side to spell trouble for Dirty Boys already with the lineup in just Week 1. Dirty Boys' lone double-digit scorer this week was Ronnie Brown with a 15. Diabetes would have topped 100 this week if Calvin Johnson's controversial touchdown had stood in that Lions-Bears game. Also in action, Jam Toe KO's DM2 Carp this week, 138.67 to 90.25. Offense seals the deal for Toe in a rout, a 93.67 performance on the offensive side of the ball. That's more points than DM2 Carp had in the entire game. On that side of the ball, it was 93.67 to 51.25. Toe had 5 offensive players in double digits with a 30.05 from 3 wide receivers. Roddy White, the other Steve Smith, and Jabbar Gaffney all had pretty good weeks. Toe also had Matt Forte this week, who was a pretty good receiver in his own right at the running back slot. He racked up 31.85. And then Jeff Reed, who wound up coming out on the winning end of the kicker fest between Pittsburgh and Atlanta, came away with 11 points at the kicker slot. Carp had Matt Schaub and Andre Johnson as the Texans scored 34 points this week as a team, but neither of them were contributing to that as Arian Foster wound up doing all the scoring there, so they combined, Schaub and Johnson that is, for just 11.03 points for the DM2 Carp roster. Great defensive war, though, in this one. 45 to 39 on the defensive side of the ball as Jam Toe comes away the winner there. Tennessee's defense and Patrick Willis were both in double figures for Toe, and Carp had Antoine Bethea and Louis Delmas combined for 21 points. And in the biggest blowout of the week, Bucknuts knocks off AZ Chargers, a rookie to the league. Bucknuts scores 158.4 points this week, winning 158.4 to 87.99. That makes Bucknuts your Toyota's greatest fantasy victor for week 1. Arian Foster led the way in the biggest beatdown of the week with a 42.05, taking Bucknuts into the record books. That was the second highest individual score of any player in this league's history, the highest being Diabetes with Chris Johnson in week 2 last year. And that was the 5th highest team score overall, the 158.4, in league history, going back all 3 seasons. The high was 179.18 by Jam Toe last year as torn tendon in week 4. AZ Chargers is now the loser in 2 of the highest posted score games of all time. Arian Foster overshadowed the fact that Peyton Manning had a huge week with a 29.32 for Bucknuts and throwing in a 16.75 from the also benefiting Indianapolis Colts tight end, Dallas Clark. AZ Chargers won the wide receiver battle with Ocho Cinco's 24.9 in a losing effort for the Bengals. The lone offensive player to meet projections, though, unfortunately. AZ Chargers had Brett Favre, who looked pretty rusty, scored less than 10. Malcolm Floyd was pretty much hiding in the Chargers offense until late in that game, wound up with only 5.55. And Ryan Grant is done for the season in just week 1, scoring just 4.5 before being taken out. And the Carolina Panthers forgot that they are a running team. D'Angelo Williams managed a 6.02 in the Carolina Panthers' loss to the Giants. Chargers struggled on the defensive side with Lance Briggs, picking up 13 points, trying to overcome the fact that 2 defensive backs on this squad scored 0 combined, Bob Sanders and Jerry Bird. Bucknuts countered on the defensive side with a great game for the Giants defense, who pretty much dissected Matt Moore in their game and also managed to stop the Carolina run game, allowing the New York Giants to score double-digit points. That completes the review of the Week 1 matchups. Week 2, we got divisional play continuing. The Wildcat division is going to see 1-0 Delicious Pancakes taking on 0-1 Inglorious Bearjew, and 1-0 Free Roethlisberger taking on 0-1 CFL. In the Caballero division, 1-0 Toe is going to be taking on 0-1 Shots, while 1-0 Herbie is going to take on 0-1 DM2 Carp. In the Aztec division, the 2 winners, Sixburg and Diabetes, will face off, while the 2 losers, Polax and Dirty Boys, will face off in the other matchup. And wrapping up the slate for Week 2 in the Toro division, winner Bucknuts is going to take on winner Greek Thunderball, and 0-1 Pain Trains will get 0-1 Chargers. So we'll hope to see you back next week for Week 2 in the Tucson Tackle Dummies League. Until then, this is Eric the Commish, signing out.